Hello, this is Gerard Robinson, and welcome again to a one-on-one conversation in our InCharacter series. We do one-on-one conversations with educators. It gives us a chance to learn a little bit more about the person, not only in the classroom, but beyond the classroom. And so that's what we're going to do today. So I want to welcome Rebecca to InCharacter.
Hi, welcome to my house.
And she's also from California, as am I. So it's always good to see someone from the West Coast involved in conversations about education. So who is Rebecca?
Rebecca is an absolute goofball. If you cut me open and counted the rings inside, it would end at 12. I am an inveterate middle schooler, and it's a good thing that that's the grade that I taught. I've been a 7th grade English teacher for about 17 years. Before that, taught high school English. In the middle of those things, there was a maternity leave where I had a son and stayed home with him for a couple of years. And right now, I am a teacher on special assignment, which sounds really exciting. It sounds sort of like I'm a Navy SEAL or something. Special agent working inside headquarters, tasked with helping new teachers onboard into the district and with new teacher induction, and also with secondary PD. So, but after that, I'm a reader, I'm a runner, I'm a good friend, I love to have a good time. I'm also a incorrigible adventurer. I like to scallywag and go wherever the road takes us. I'm using the guiding principle that you're not late and you're not lost. So let's see what's around the corner. And that's kind of an energy I brought into the classroom too. Just kind of, the kids would say to me when I would say, what do you want on your tombstone? I would say that I was firm, fair, and fun. And they were like, you got it, you got it.
I like that. You're in California now. Are you a native of California?
I am. California girl through and through, born and raised in wine country, Napa, California. Went to college in the middle part of the state at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Met my husband there. He works in the film industry. So of course, followed him to Los Angeles, which I think the love of a good person is the only reason somebody comes to Los Angeles.
Hey, I'm from LA.
When you're from Napa, you really don't know what you're leaving when you're 19, but
that's true.
Still with that great guy 32 years later, living in Los Angeles, love it here, wouldn't go back. And yeah, California girl, for sure.
When did you know you wanted to become an educator?
Not soon enough. I graduated from college and went into publishing and worked there for a time while trying to gather money to go to law school. My plan was to become a lawyer and to work in litigation, and decided a few years into working that I had gone to courtrooms and seen lawyers practice, and I had learned from them that it's not all that it is cracked up to be, that what you see on TV is about 2% of their year, that the rest is spent on research and reading and meetings and emails, and it did not seem as glamorous as I wanted. So I kind of bounced around a little bit, and after spending some time in frustration talking to my husband about what I was supposed to do when I grew up, it was super, super clear to him. And he asked me actually to make a list of all the things I wanted to do with the rest of my life and things I never wanted to do again. And when he looked at the list, he's like, it's clear as day to me. And that made me irritated, of course. I was like, okay, genius, enlighten me. And he said, you're supposed to be a teacher. And the reason that that was a hot button issue is because both of my parents were teachers and were retired. And I just felt like, no, when you have kids, they're supposed to go up and beyond. They're supposed to kind of go farther than your parents or do something different than your parents. I didn't see it as sort of a badge of honor for them or even for me to follow in their footsteps. But when we looked at that list together, it was super true. And the minute I went into a teacher prep program, I felt like I'd been doing it my whole life. And when you're a teacher's kid, you kind of have been doing it your whole life. I spent Sundays in my mom's classroom. My dad and I drove to the high school every day together, and I hung out in his classroom. I got to watch him grade papers and run meetings and be department chairs. So the work for me felt so normal. It felt like I could do it in my sleep, but I didn't want to sleep because I loved it. And I'm weird that way. I love faculty meetings. I love my colleagues, even the bitter, angry ones. I love them. So yeah, I'm that kind of weird person that just loves everything about being a teacher. The hard parts are not hard for me, and the easy parts I just loved. And so The really fascinating shift for me was coming back from maternity leave, and the only opening was middle school. And of course, I refused. I pitched a huge tantrum, and my husband showed me our bank balance and all those zeros. And he said, "You'll be the custodian if you need to be. You're going back to work."
Mm-hmm.
And middle school was it. And I said, "Okay, I'll give it a year. Anybody can do anything for a year. It's not going to kill me." And within the first 30 seconds, 60 seconds, I knew I was home. Those were my people. I loved them. They made eye contact, which high schoolers don't do. They called me mom. They watched me wherever I went in the classroom. Their eyes tracked me. It was kind of creepy. It burned at first. But I couldn't wait to see him the next day. And it's felt that way for 20 years.
Your smarts, your brilliance, your passion, it all comes out. And because of that, other people see it as well. I know two things about you in terms of awards that you've won. Let's start with the first. Many people in our home state of California may never have an opportunity to meet you or any state teacher of the year. Talk to us about the process from, hey, we think you should apply, to you receiving the phone call or hearing your name, and then what did that lead to next?
Well, when you work in a school district, every year there's a teacher of the year. And if your school is small enough, it's really just kind of a pass the apple sort of a thing. Everybody gets it at some point. And even though that's true, that there are repeats, I had never earned that award in my teaching career. But the best part is you're nominated by your peers, and your peers have to vote for you, and they have to explain why they think you're exemplary. So to be chosen to represent our school as the teacher of the year, and the reasons why they wrote I deserved it, was just a massive shot in the arm and a reminder that even though I was non-traditional, I was a bit wild, a little bit rebellious, there was something about the methods that were getting results with kids that my peers were responding to. And that meant an awful lot to me, because I had imposter syndrome. I hid a lot in my classroom, thinking I was not doing it right, that there's an official way, and if they find out I'm not doing it by the book, I could never win this award. So that's how it starts. From there, there's a series of continuing, ever widening circles. Like once you're your school's teacher of the year, well, that puts you in competition for the district. And if you win the district, which is also voted on by your peers after an interview, then you go to your region and then your state. And then every time I was like, well, what's another application? Just go ahead and fill it out, fill it out, fill it out. And I just kept getting the call that it was me, and I just kept being shocked and astounded. I was like, there's no way it's me. And I was named California Teacher of the Year. I got the call on a Friday night after school. I was in the Target checkout line. I was buying cat food because we had a kitten and a bottle of Chardonnay. And
not for the kitten, right?
Not for the kitten.
Not for the kitten, okay.
I call that sort of a single girl Saturday night, even though I'm married, but that's typically what you might find. And I got the call from the state chief, the superintendent, that he was calling to congratulate me that I was the California Teacher of the Year and the selection to go into the national contest. So I, of course, burst into tears in the Target checkout line. I thought, I mean, he was so sweet. He bagged all my stuff up for me and was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm fine." And then the next call I got, well, actually there's a process. After you're the state teacher of the year, if you're selected one of the 4 finalists from the country to go to the national contest, that's a whole new ballgame. That's the World Series.
Okay.
They fly you to Washington, D.C. for a week. It's a week-long process that's equivalent to a teach-off. You do 5 different events, each one replicating what your experience as that role model and representative for the nation's teachers will be. Everything from a Today Show interview to a local press conference to networking at an evening dinner event to standing up and giving a keynote in front of a large audience to the actual 2-hour-long interview with the movers and shakers in education. So that was an extremely intensive process with the other 3 finalists. And about a month after that, I was home walking in my car on campus after school, got the call from CCSSO that I was the selection to be the National Teacher of the Year, and I'd have 24 hours to accept or decline. And I couldn't believe it. I think I might have even said, shut up. And from there, the rest is history. You come out of the classroom for a year, you travel the nation and the globe. It's typical for you to receive your award in the White House from the current president, which I did in 2012, received the Crystal Apple from Barack Obama. That's one of the proudest moments of my entire life. My parents, who were teachers, retired teachers, were there standing with me. So it meant an awful lot to them. So it was my husband and son. And then typically the National Teacher of the Year travels the US quite extensively and maybe does one international trip. But President Obama and I had such a warm and lovely interaction at our press conference that I guess it made a bigger splash than normal. And I was the most requested National Teacher of the Year in history. And I went to 13 countries and 34 states. So to go from one international visit to 13 made a very special year for me. I got to go everywhere from Russia to Japan to China to Australia, Canada, Mexico, Guam, and everywhere else to talk about what's going right here in this country, but also to find out what works other places and look for solutions that could be brought back home and considered here. So it was my honor to get to represent us, and it was a wild, wonderful ride.
It definitely sounds like it, and thank you for inviting us into that walk, because that's rare air, let's just say, that you had a chance to walk. Often people will tell us what other countries are doing. You had a chance to travel. Are there a couple of themes, I don't know, pedagogies or others that you picked up from another country that maybe we in the US or maybe within our particular state should think about?
There were two things that stood out from my year abroad. And the first had to do with the world's curiosity about our guiding principle of innovation and creativity and giving kids empowered choice over their learning and not, trying to shove scripted curriculum into kids wherever they are. Now, does that exist in the US? Of course. Is it problematic? Yes. But they were thrilled to hear more about ways you can offer kids voice and choice and agency, but still meet really high learning standards and even push kids past those. They wanted to talk about that all day. The thing that I saw that I wanted to bring back for us was how nations like Singapore approach the teaching profession and how they honor and support and grow it through the systems they've put in place for how they ask people into the profession, how they support and nurture them with layers of master teachers and with pay systems and structures and evaluation metrics that really get to the heart of where is your effectiveness and how can we push that even further. And if you can't grow or won't grow, you've got to go. And that's just a non-negotiable. So I felt like those are ideas that should come back to the US. They've been missing a long time. And I wish sometimes we had a little bit more freedom around designing systems that are more supportive of teachers so that we can really ensure retention and be a very inviting profession that, high-level professionals want to come to.
It's interesting you mentioned creativity. I had a chance to visit some schools in Beijing and had a chance to go to one of the highest performing schools in the country. And I say at the end of the day, what makes your system different from the US system? And he named why they're doing well in math and science. He says, but the one thing you Americans have that we just can't get our hands around is the creative spirit, how you innovate and do things. And so you were definitely hitting on that as well. Well, as we get ready to end our conversation, what do you want to share with non-traditional teachers? And I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of teachers will take the traditional path, but you took, I guess, the road less traveled. There are a lot of people, a lot of Rebeccas, a lot of Roberts and others who may hear this and think, you know what? My husband or my spouse or my partner or friend, they said the same thing to me, but I'm not willing to make the jump. What do you say?
I think you should absolutely do it. You know, it took me a while to find my way and figure out that this was for me. And then even once I was here, it took me a while to figure out what was my grade level. I thought I was a high school English teacher. It turns out the National Teacher of the Year is a 7th grade English teacher. That's also me.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I've been out of the classroom and looking and learning so much more about how to teach effectively, there might even be a different grade level out there that I could return to.
Okay.
I think one of the things I would say is if you want a job that is going to ask so much of you, it's going to ask you to fire on every single one of your cylinders. It's going to ask you to use your heart and your mind and your empathy and your logic and reason. It's going to ask you to be really flexible. It's going to ask you to be super, super human in the sense that you're going to have to go beyond what you feel your capacity is, but you're also going to have to really get in touch with human beings and their growth and development and their feelings and struggles. If you really want a job that's going to ask all that of you and put you on that leading edge of all those feelings and seeing the future start to knit itself together one day at a time, there is no more exciting place to come to. It is hard. It is going to ask so much of you, and you're going to have to negotiate some operating rules for how not to let this job take it all from you. But if you want that excitement and you can navigate that negotiation, you are in for the ride of a lifetime. You will never regret a day spent teaching kids. And when it's all over, many years from now, you will not regret 1 minute of it. You won't. I think that's a job worth having.
Well, I'm glad to have you as my National Teacher of the Year when you serve in that role. Glad to have you as a part of our InCharacter network. Look forward to more conversations and remain brilliant and passionate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I've loved chatting with you today.